Hugo immediately screams in denial, insisting he isn't divorced, though he brushes off the topic, asking instead about Li Jian and what happened in the tower. Hugo hesitates, debating whether he should tell Li Jian everything, particularly about Sung Jae and Yuha, who are fanatics of him. Hugo explains that during that time, he was busy fighting calamities outside and had no idea what happened in the tower. He questions why the others were carrying the Crimson Eye's head instead of Li Jian. Li Jian sighs and begins explaining, saying there's a sad story behind it. He reveals that he was betrayed, stabbed in the back, and thrown into a trap in a place swarming with calamities. To make things worse, the dead Crimson Eye had come back to life. Hugo is shocked, but Li Jian adds that the Crimson Eye they saw wasn't its real body. The real Crimson Eye was deep inside the tower, and he had to fight and defeat it. However, he insists that the real problem wasn't the Crimson Eye but the administrator of the tower, a figure capable of reviving dead calamities. Li Jian describes how he barely managed to fight his way out, enduring brutal torture from the sadistic administrator. In the end, he killed the administrator but collapsed after exhausting all his strength. He even believed he had died there. When he woke up, the hellish monsters were gone, and somehow, he had gained his current abilities. One thing was clear to him: the person who betrayed him knew the structure of the demon's tower well enough to trap him in a calamity-filled cave deliberately. Li Jian vows revenge, promising to punish those who stole his assets and tarnished his name. He reserves special treatment for the backstabber and starts planning his next moves. He announces he will use his creation workshop skill to craft divine artifacts to help him in his quest. The system prompts him to choose materials, offering options like the corrupted essence of the Spider Queen, a fragment of calamity, and other rare items. Additionally, it detects divine artifacts of Ares that can be used. Excited, Li Jian decides to throw everything into the mix. The creation of the divine artifact begins, and an artifact with an ego emerges, a piece called Imitation Horse. The ego explains that if someone's name is written on it, the artifact allows the owner to absorb the magic power of anyone they touch. Li Jian is thrilled, noting that a divine artifact with an ego can grow stronger over time. Hugo claps on to cheer Li Jian, but he sarcastically remarks that while it's high-grade equipment, it doesn't look very impressive. Furious, Li Jian yells at Hugo, questioning if he realizes how many materials he used for this creation. He adds that he was considering making equipment for Hugo, but now he's changed his mind. Panicking, Hugo quickly backpedals, showering Li Jian with compliments and calling him a genius for creating a divine artifact. Li Jian cools down, stating that he'll decide based on how well Hugo performs from now on. He shifts the topic to their next steps, suggesting they start by dealing with the saints who betrayed him. Hugo is shocked as he questions why Li Jian would bring out such a top-tier artifact when he can't even use it. Li Jian replies that he heard Hugo is a saint with no money, so he brought it to fund him. Hugo explodes, angrily denying that he's poor. Li Jian explains that higher-grade divine artifacts require more resources to create, and they can use the Golden Fleece to multiply their materials. Hugo protests, pointing out that no one present can activate it. Li Jian, irritated, questions if Hugo can't use it. Hugo furiously declares that he's not the Aries saint but the Sagittarius saint. As Li Jian gets to realize this, he thinks that they will have to find another method. Hugo apologizes, but before they can strategize, Li Jian casually mentions that he already sent a war declaration to the broadcasting station. Hugo flinches, coldly demanding to know what Li Jian sent and to which place. Li Jian shrugs, saying they'll figure something out. Hugo panics, screaming and calling Li Jian a lunatic. The scene abruptly shifts to the Blue House in Korea, where an awakened calls the Gemini cadre retards for failing to kill a single spider and humiliating themselves instead. Captain Oliver of the Leo Divine Corps scoffs, mocking their failure. When someone mentions that the Spider Queen was slain by an unknown figure, Oliver sarcastically wonders if the dead Li Jian has come back to life. But Choi of the Gemini cadre interrupts to state that Oliver is too obsessed with Li Jian fantasies. Oliver asks what if it matters, as Li Jian could definitely kill the Spider Queen easily. He questions if he hadn't seen the famous Russian subjugation battle video. Choi annoyingly rebukes him, stating that Li Jian had done that because he received the buffs of the other saints and his weapons were given to him by others as well. He adds that with that kind of support they would have done better. Oliver scoffs that he guesses they were not able to deal with the Spider Queen because they didn't have enough support. Choi, flaring up his aura, clarifies that the Awakened from the Ares were the ones who killed the Spider Queen, thanks to the sacrifice of an S-rank disciple. Oliver as well manifests his aura, asking if Ares is that strong, stating that he would love to meet that person. He mocks Choi, stating that they will have to take a look for that person in the stomach of the Spider Queen. Seeing the tension between them, the Prime Minister clenches his teeth, questioning when the Blue House became a den of such thugs. Their argument is interrupted when a guard rushes in, urging the president to watch the news. It is reported that a mysterious package has been delivered to a broadcasting station, containing photos of someone resembling Wang in a short note reading, "He's back." Handwriting analysis confirms a 99% match to the deceased Li Jian. Back at Hugo's house, Hugo screams in agony, demanding to know what Li Jian was thinking. Li Jian casually replies that it was a war declaration and tells them to prepare for their downfall. Hugo calls him reckless, insisting that killing Wang is already a huge issue, and now he's made things worse. Li Jian clarifies that Wang isn't truly alive or dead, holding up a rabbit toy. Hugo stares in disbelief as the toy curses under its breath as it's Wang, trapped inside. Hugo is disgusted as he questions whether it could be Wang Ye. Yang Wei, trapped in the doll, screams to let him go and release him. Li Jian pulls his ear, stating that his abilities have improved quite a bit from the experience gained in this battle, making it possible to restrain Wang's soul. Hugo questions if something like this is even possible and wonders what in the world has happened. Li Jian dismisses his question, saying it's not important, and asks him to look at something, handing him a knife. Li Jian reveals that the knife was embedded in his back and is what led him into a trap. Hugo, quite nervous, notes that it's the blade that pushed Li Jian to his death. From the engraving, it doesn't look like an ordinary blade. Hugo questions if he was stabbed, then it definitely wasn't Wang. Li Jian states that he'll then kill Wang then. Li Jian adds that he would be dropping by the Divine Artifact store for a bit. Hugo questions about his visit, for which Li Jian explains that Wang mentioned seeing that engraving somewhere in the store. Li Jian asks Hugo to lend him some clothes. Hugo responds that he can wear anything from the closet. As Li Jian gets dressed, he calls Wang, slave number 2, and asks him to guard the house. Hugo asks if there's a slave number 1, to which Li Jian bids farewell, calling Hugo, slave number 1, making him shout in anger.
Scene shifts to the museum, where the Aquarius officials report to the saint that the Aries saint is missing, and they can't sense the divine god's energy. The Aquarius saint, Sophie Marty, states that she wonders where he went. The officials speculate that he might have disappeared with all the wealth, to which Sophie remarks that if he made a deal with another saint behind her back, it could be quite troublesome. She questions whether that big piggy ran off. The subordinate questions if it's possible that Li Jian, who recently returned, might have kidnapped Wang. Sophie laughs, calling it a joke, but a maid apprehensively cries in despair as she is tortured by her. The subordinate apologizes for the unnecessary comment, but Sophie dismisses it, saying it's fine. She declares she'll head to the Divine Artifact store as planned, intending to sell off the divine artifacts to prepare funds for the drachma auction. However, an official interrupts, reporting to the saint that a major issue has occurred as other saints have also applied to participate in the drachma auction, shocking Sophie. The scene shifts to Lion's Gym, where people are surprised seeing the person. Stephen, the Leo saint, hears that Li Jian's divine artifact will appear in the drachma auction. Throwing his robe, he excitedly declares that it has finally appeared. Elsewhere, Li Jian and Sungjae teleport to the Divine Artifact Store complex. Li Jian remarks that teleportation is convenient, and Sungjae notes it's usually expensive but free for Gemini affiliates. Li Jian thanks Sungjae for the introduction to an SS rank appraiser, to which Sungjae replies it's not much, recalling orders from Choi to escort Li Jian and provide him with any support needed. Li Jian questions Sungjae if his boss is bothering him. He gives Sungjae a dagger, instructing him to use it well against insects. The dagger is imbued with desire and a skill to summon 2 soldiers. Sungjae questions whether the dagger wasn't rusted before, and Li Jian confirms he fixed it, warning that its effects are now slightly different. Sungjae thanks him, and Li Jian asks if that's the place where the SS rank appraiser is. The scene shifts to the Divine Artifact store. People are amazed, noting the beauty of the Aquarius saint, Sophie Marty. She asks an official to leave some divine artifacts for the appraiser before the auction. The official apologizes, stating the appraiser is currently with another customer. Sophie smiles outwardly, saying it's fine, but internally she seethes, questioning who in the world dared to occupy the appraiser while she's present. She questions about the person who is inside. Inside, Li Jian notes that it's rare to see an SS rank running such a place and comments on the high prices. The appraiser asks Sung Jae who made a particular artifact, to which Lee Jian affirms that he is the one who made it. The appraiser, Jean, the Virgo affiliate SS rank, quite taken aback, asks if he has some sort of connection with Lee Jian. Sung Jae explains that he is a Lee Jian pretender, to which Jean asks Sung Jae that they are having an important to talk, so he have to wait a moment. Jean remarks that most people only know Lee Jian for combat, but he's also a legendary producer. Jean praises the artifact, saying he's seen countless counterfeits, but this one is genuine and reflects Lee Jian's craftsmanship. Lee Jian, flattered yet confused, acknowledges the compliment, stating that he must know a lot about Lee Jian. Jean, blushing and smiling creepily, admits he's Lee Jian's disciple, who once received his favor. This leaves Lee Jian baffled and troubled by Jin's overly emotional reaction.